Hello, my name is Jody Waldo, and I am a parent of a deaf son who is attending college and uses American Sign Language. He attended deaf schools when he was growing up. It is important to think about a student's degree of hearing loss when creating an individualized educational plan, also known as the IEP. Degree of hearing loss means how low sounds have to be before they can be heard. Each student is individual, and the quality of hearing that is left, also known as residual hearing, affects spoken language and communication access. Students who have a mild or moderate hearing loss, as well as those with a severe to profound hearing loss, can experience delays learning spoken, receptive, and expressive language skills. Receptive language means language that they hear and understand. Expressive language means what students can express by speaking or signing, especially if the family does not use sign language. Spoken languages include English, Spanish, Hmong, and Somali, for example. Delays and missing spoken information can cause struggles in school. Also, students miss academic information, and their social and emotional well-being may be affected. As children become older, their needs may change because academics, information, and social settings change. It is important that the IEP team continue to discuss how students who are deaf or hard of hearing need to connect with other peers and adults, including role models who are deaf and hard of hearing. This is needed at all grade levels because kids need to develop strong self-identities. In this section of the discussion guide, the prompts help parents, teachers of deaf and hard of hearing students, and other IEP team members to think about the student's language and communication needs. It is important that the teams understand that being deaf or hard of hearing has a significant impact in many areas of life. It is important to recognize how challenged or limited access to spoken language in the school setting affects access to language and communication. Using tools such as the Functional Listening Evaluation, also known as the FLE, and Speech Perception and Noise Test as some tools that can be used. When the FLE is not enough, then a systematic classroom observation in a challenging class may add more information. The student's perception of difficulties is also needed. Degree of understanding spoken language in background noise that is typical in classes, as well as access to technology, will help the IEP team figure out the proper programming and support. The IEP team needs to consider the type of access a student has to language and communication in order to determine services that will lead them to greater academic and social success. Some students do well with a sign language interpreter in the general education classroom, whereas other students prefer direct communication through signing or cued English, or speaking in smaller groups to support learning. Some students seem to do well with an assistive listening device, and others need real-time captioning support in a class or two when rigor and pace increase. In another example, does a student miss out on talking with classmates and friends when it's noisy? Do they have trouble hearing and interacting with other students because they don't know what to say? This might be because they're not hearing what other kids talk about. This may lead to social isolation and low self-esteem for some students. Other ideas for support include, but are not limited to, small group work, buddies on the playground, smaller class size, adding a visual language, such as American Sign Language, or even the tool of cued English, or real-time captioning, and considering the need for a sign language interpreter. The IEP team needs to consider if the student needs more connections with deaf or hard of hearing peers and adult role models, and if they need additional instruction to boost their social language skills. Being able to meet others who have attended a similar school setting or who are near the same age as they are often helps students develop confidence. The need for deaf or hard of hearing peers may change over time, so it is important that it is revisited at each level. Students may feel more isolated in middle school and high school when the social scene changes and cafeterias and other places become louder and more difficult to talk and connect with other kids. Some students seem fine in elementary school, but then are lonelier in middle school and high school. Interactions with other deaf and hard of hearing students help students know they're not alone, boost their self-esteem, and lead to overall social and academic success. If a student uses a visual language, such as American Sign Language, the IEP team needs to consider how often the student works with a teacher and/or other staff who are fluent in ASL. Also, communication with adults and peers who also use ASL needs to be considered. Some hearing peers may learn ASL and talk directly with deaf students, and this helps. For other students, this is not enough. If the student needs more interactions with other deaf or hard of hearing peers, the team may explore other programming and placement options to ensure the student's social, emotional, as well as academic needs are being met.